Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Aleksandra Gajer on the line, and she's founder of the Gajer practice. Aleksandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
All right, so excited to have you on, actually. We've been doing a lot of different discussions about alternative medicine, what that looks like, other ways to treat people, also longevity. The longevity space is hot, and it's continuing to get even hotter, in my opinion, with new advancements in medicine. So excited to have you on to have some conversations around that. I guess just to get us kicked off, maybe tell us a little bit more about the Gajer practice and what you specialize in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Gajer practice is a practice that I set up about 2.5 years ago. I was an ER doctor beforehand. I worked in emergency medicine for 10 years. And while I was an ER doctor, I saw sort of a revolving door of chronic complaints. So, we often think about the ER as excitement, and sure, we get the car crashes, the accidents, all those things where you can
I
put
do not
people back
think of
together.
that as exciting, just so you know. That's so scary to me. That's like on
scary.
TV exciting. I'm scared to watch it on TV. Please continue.
My goodness. Yes. Well, we certainly get those things, but actually, I would say 80% of our time is filled with adults who have chronic health conditions who are coming back because those health conditions are causing issues that are interfering with their lives. And we can put Band-Aids on those, but over time, what I found was that people were coming back sicker and sicker and sicker. And then often when there was a final visit where they died during the ER visit. Yeah. And, I also had some of my own health struggles during residency where I was really not feeling well and no one could really pinpoint what was wrong. I just didn't feel like myself and I didn't feel like my body was functioning the way it should. And it led me to really be interested in and to start studying health, and the state of health. Basically, what can we do for people to create health? We're very, very focused on disease in our medical system. In my medical training, it was very much related to pill equals disease. So if there was no pill for it, we most likely would not learn about it. And we have a lot of chronic disease, so there's a lot to learn, absolutely. But what I became more interested in is how do we create this state of health where people feel really vital, they feel great in their bodies, and their bodies can do everything they want to do on a day-to-day basis. So that's a long way of saying that my practice is really combining the science of health, and I do that through metabolic optimization, hormone health, whole person care, also with the art of transformation through these deeply personalized, patient-focused visits that are really often missing in the rest of today's healthcare system.
So you have this, how did you design the practice? Like taking a step further. So you have this idea, you're going from the ER and you're thinking about launching your own practice. Like where do you even begin with something like that?
Yeah, so it's probably less intentional than, the best things in life happen to you by accident. But I really wanted to get out of the ER. I was suffering from burnout. COVID was not great for me. And
can't imagine. Yeah, I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was a tough time. And our emergency department work was very much productivity based. How many patients can you see? How many procedures can you do? Faster, without much of this human element. And I met a doctor who had a medical practice and he was retiring and he was looking to sell it. And he had a number of offers that were probably much better than mine, but they were mostly from sort of venture capitalists who were going to make this into a big money maker and hire some doctors to be productive. But he wanted to sell it to somebody who wanted to take care of his patients. It was sort of his life's work. He really cared for this group of patients. And it felt pretty impossible to me, honestly, but it all kind of came together serendipitously. And I bought the practice from him, and he had this internal medicine practice that was not insurance-based, so we could spend more time with patients. And he also had a weight loss program. So I started with that and really became interested in metabolic health, which is that's kind of a buzzword now, but what metabolic health is basically how we fuel our bodies. What happens to food after we put it in our mouths? Is it used as fuel? Is it used to nourish our organs and our brains? Or is it stored as fat and does it become inflammation? And so I started working with a lot of patients on their metabolic health. And then I noticed that a lot of patients had hormonal imbalances on top of that. So we could get the weight under control, the metabolic health, and then we needed to go a step further. So I developed some protocols to take care of patients' hormones. And we could tune up the hormones. And then, sometimes there were still issues. And I found myself working with a lot of high performers. So a lot of entrepreneurs, military, lawyers, executives, athletes, actors, people who were sort of living life to the fullest, but felt like their bodies were holding them back in some way. And so I really got into this sort of performance medicine, health optimization. How can we optimize people's bodies for their performance in life? So starting again with metabolic health, hormone health, and then bringing in things like inflammation and gut health and sometimes peptide therapy, just very personalized paths to help people live in the best bodies that they can.
How do you, when you think about so I know you mentioned metabolism, hormones, peptides, like all of this is at kind of at the core of your work. For those that aren't really familiar of why that matters, so those that are maybe listening to this that are not quite as far along in their journey, understand maybe they're used to just, hey, I take a pill for that, right? Like just a pill kind of thing. Can you kind of maybe just go into it a little bit? And obviously I'm not asking you to prescribe anything. Obviously, like every patient's going to be different. You have to meet with an individual to give actual medical advice. But like, how should people start thinking about these things, especially if it's very foreign to them?
Absolutely. Yes, a lot of medicine is focused on, let's take a pill for this. Let's sort of put a Band-Aid on things. But when you look at disease or ill health, at the center of most diseases, cancer, heart disease, strokes, kidney issues, at the center of that, if you look 15, 20 years before those things started, 99% of people had something called metabolic dysfunction, which means that your body is not properly using food as fuel and your engines in your body are not working properly. It's if you really look into it, it's actually the root of a lot of illness and a lot of states of non-well-being. So what I focus with people on is first, how are we fueling your body? Is your body responding to food correctly? And one of the biggest things, the foundational things, is returning to whole foods, because we live in a society where we move very quickly, and convenience foods are the norm. And a lot of convenience foods are highly processed and have non-food additives, which are chemicals that our body is not used to recognizing as food, and can really cause a lot of dysfunction like weight gain and insulin resistance and inflammation that can lead to cancer. And we eat a lot of sugar because sugar feels good, and it gives us quick energy and stress relief. And sugar is actually, can be highly toxic, especially in our blood vessels. And a leading cause of death in the U.S. is heart disease. And a lot of the blood vessel and the heart health issues come from the fact that we can have toxic levels of sugar in our blood vessels that are basically corrosive and can wear down those blood vessels. So diet, exercise, lifestyle, what we're eating, whole foods, trying to learn again how to nourish our bodies, not eat just to get rid of hunger, but how do we get nutrients into the body, give it what it needs. We are wired for movement. The absence of movement is a disease in itself, and it causes disease states. So getting people moving. And for some people, that means they want to run and be athletes. For other people, taking a walk after dinner is what movement is. But getting some movement into people's lives. And then we focus on sleep which sleep is crucial, and most of the repair that our body needs, the time that the body spends repairing blood vessels, looking for cancer cells to get rid of, keeping the brain sharp, that all happens while we're asleep. And
Mm.
sleep has really fallen apart for many of us who are, under
Oh yeah.
modern
Who are
stress.
entrepreneurs or have
Yes,
kids or have like a life
exactly.
or have to check their Instagram. I don't know, whatever.
Yes, I know. And of course, I never expect people to be perfect, but it's how can we improve that a little bit? And
Yeah.
when we put all that together and how we're managing stress, it's amazing how much that can move the needle, how much better life gets. And
Mhm.
I think, it can feel like, when these diseases happen, we all hope it won't happen to us.
Mhm.
And it's a surprise if if it does, but it's really not. If we look back at what we were doing 10 years ago, that we were setting our bodies up for that to happen. And I think that the science is there now, and that's kind of my hope um, is when people come in, we know the roadmap, we know where they're going, and we can perhaps choose a new path.
Mm. That's great. Yeah, that's great. And what I like about this though is that even that we're having this conversation as people, as the patients become more, open minded to this, and as other medical professionals and doctors such as yourself, kind of start heading down this path and questioning and saying, what else is possible, or what else is benefiting. At some point you'd hope there'd be some type of equilibrium, right? As and the system in time would change, because ultimately, better, I think everybody involved for the most part in the healthcare system, that are at least on the patient side, we want better patient outcomes, right? Like that's the goal.
Absolutely. That is
Yeah.
the goal. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And it's tough.
Alexandra, go ahead. It is. It is. I'm not saying there's one thing that fits all. And I know there's a lot of well-meaning people that have good hearts and that would like to be able to do this. But everybody, I feel like everybody plays their role, and it's
Yes.
hard. And for somebody to go out and do what you did, and like even start your own practice, or I should from the other doctor, and all the things that you're doing, there's a certain amount of risk that goes into that. There's a lot of different things that
Mhm.
go into this. So it becomes being an entrepreneur and doing that. I mean, that I'm sure you going this route, you gave up a little bit of your sleep, huh?
I did. I did. Yes.
Is that an understatement?
A little bit of an understatement, but I'm working hard to get it back, to have some good boundaries around sleep. Be a good example.
You and me both. You and me both. Podcast doesn't feed itself. Got to feed the beast. No.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. Well, Aleksandra, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show today and getting to know more about the Gajer practice. That being said, if somebody's watching or listening to this and they want to follow up, they want to connect, they want to learn more, how do they do that?
Yeah, so the best place to go is our website, which is thegajerpractice.com. And Gajer is Gajer. The J sounds like a Y. And there's a button there that says book a free introductory call. It's a great place to start. It's free. It gets you with one of our health counselors, and we can get to know your situation and make recommendations of how we can work with you and what a good fit would be for you.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show, each and every day bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Aleksandra, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.